Hey there, thanks for joining us tonight at 6. I am Hoyt.
And I'm Jurnee Taylor. We'll get to all of that news in just a bit, but we're going to start with weather because just a few hours ago, a storm rolled through, knocking out power for more than 50,000 people.
Those numbers coming down slightly here in the last 90 minutes or so, right around 38,000 people right now. A lot of customers with Entergy and First Electric Co-op waiting right now for the lights to come back on in our area. So for more on the weather, let's bring in meteorologist Simone Thomas.
Yeah, Simone, where's that front at right now? Are we still dealing with the weather? What can we expect going into the night?
Yeah, we had a cold front that ahead of that is where we saw a lot of these thunderstorms. That front really only impacting some northern portions of the state. So we saw a lot of those storm reports come out along that I-40 corridor. We're going to take a deeper look across the state again, starting in northwest Arkansas into the River Valley and then into north central Arkansas. All of the storm reports here in the state were for thunderstorm wind damage and wind gust reports. We've had a lot of reportings of tree limbs down or just entire trees falling on structures or falling in general due to some of the gusty winds. One of the latest local storm reports from the National Weather Service says the Little Rock Adams Field Airport recorded a wind gust of 63 miles an hour earlier when those storms passed through. Now, these storms did bring a little bit of rainfall. It wasn't enough to completely get us out of the woods with our drought and our wildfire risk. But again, along that I-40 line, we see those pockets, those darker blues closer to 3/4 of an inch, getting into those oranges, radar estimates of 1 to even 1.5 inches. So some beneficial rainfall, but of course, locations south of I-40 and even extreme northern Arkansas were not as lucky. Those impacts were very isolated today, but still packed quite a bit of a punch. Now that complex of storms that was responsible for everything is impacting northern Mississippi now. You can see off to our east, and we had a little bit of isolated convection across some of western Arkansas when we started the 4 o'clock show. Now things are winding down. As we close in on sunset, we'll continue to see rain coverage and activity winding down, and partly cloudy skies are expected overnight with another mild and muggy evening ahead of us. Full details for your rest of the week are coming up in just a few.
All right, thank you, Simone. Well, we do know as storms pass through, it may have caused a large grass fire just off of I-40 near Van Buren. Crews have since gotten that under control.
And it comes as fire crews across the state cross their fingers whenever lightning strikes or any kind of spark comes up in these dangerously dry conditions. This is video actually from Fordyce. That's a separate fire. That one there has burned more than 240 acres. And we need to keep those fingers crossed that a fire like that doesn't threaten a more populated area.
Yeah, TV 11's Tanya Rodaziski shows us what state officials want you to know.
Here just north of Fordyce is where the wildfire was, and you can see here there are still some hot spots in this area that are going, but actually the Department of Agriculture Forestry Division says this is where the fire decided to jump the road, and you can see some more hot spots over here. And actually he says this is when the fire was the hottest and largest by some of the char on the trees.
This was the scene at the Dallas and Cleveland County lines over the weekend. According to Jim Burham with the Department of Agriculture Forestry Division, crews got a call for a wildfire Saturday just after noon. He says 249 acres were impacted, and majority of the trees are not salvageable. Just Thursday, he says the same area was up in flames for a much smaller scale fire. While the fire is at a 95% containment, they're still keeping an eye on it as well as the rest of the impacted counties.
And with this kind of wind already kicking up, it's never truly safe because we got a lot more days of drought, a lot more days over 100 degrees, and it's going to be a severe weather watch.
Again, as you can see, the wind is going, and that's just a reminder for burn ban, especially some of these smoldering logs that we have here. And now the Department of Ag Forestry Division is reminding folks we are under a burn ban until further notice when we get some sizable rain. In Dallas County, Tanya Motorzitsky, THV 11 News.
All right, Tanya, thanks. And this heat isn't letting up, so parents can't let up when it comes to preparing kids for outdoor activities now that everyone seems to be back in school.
Yeah, that's because children and teens are among the most vulnerable when it comes to heat-related illnesses like heat stroke.
And that's when the body no longer has the ability to cool itself and the temperature starts to go up. You might see lethargy, confusion. Try to have the children drink throughout the day. Send them with a a sports bottle of their choice through school, encourage them to fill it up at least twice during the school day.
Now, Arkansas has a 5-tier system that sets out limits depending on the temperature, as measured by a special device called a wet bulb globe. The AAA also mandates schools have cold tubs and a cooling zone ready just in case it's needed.
Well, new tonight at 6, a sad update to a story we shared just a few weeks ago. Brandon Gamage, the 50-year-old man from Nevada County who was reported missing, has now been found dead. Police say he was found in a red truck near a creek. Family members say he had borrowed a kayak, but they weren't sure if he had made it out on the water or not. His body is now being sent to the state crime lab to determine how he died. Meanwhile, a shooting involving a Franklin County deputy has been ruled as justified. It happened back in May after investigators found 2 people dead from stab wounds. The sheriff's office says the suspect, 54-year-old Patrick Poole, was armed with a knife. He fought with deputies and then tried to take one of their guns before another deputy shot him twice.
The list keeps growing quickly of places ditching license plate readers made by Flock Safety. Greers Ferry, Mayflower, Searcy have all decided to unplug the Flock cameras installed in each city, and Cabot has put a pause on them to review their contracts with the company. Critics raise privacy concerns, worried about how the images and data the cameras gather is being used and who has access to it. Defenders point to how the tech has helped solve crimes.
It was those cameras that within a matter of an hour tracked the stolen trailer.
We have to be careful that the tools that we're addicted to don't exceed the constitutional parameters of freedom that we want in America.
The nationwide scrutiny and recent arrests of people accessing the data without authorization has led the company to change some of its privacy rules. Flock will now flag abnormal search behavior in its systems and require every search to use a case code to access data.
You will get caught, plain and simple. If you try to use this tool illegally, you will get caught. And I hope that state regulators pass bills that make that a criminal offense. It should not just be a termination. It should be a criminal offense if you abuse your power.
Isolated reports of vandalism on those cameras has grown alongside the broad public pushback all across the country. You're looking at video from Fargo, North Dakota, where dozens have gathered to protest the cameras. And it all comes as a recent report found more than 15,000 searches may have been linked to immigration enforcement. Well, still to come here at 6, we're going to head back out to Benton as Buc-ee's welcomes the crowds. We'll hear more from city and state leaders on what the grand opening means for Arkansas.
Well, Saline County probably still very hot right now with some upper 90s on the board. We got a few neighbors in the 80s and even low 90s thanks to some of those clouds and rain that moved through. We'll talk more about what to expect for the rest of the week coming up in 6 minutes.